Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Designing the Studio, where I speak to studio founders about the ins and outs of their professional lives. Today, I have Shreyansh with me, who's the founder of Studio Bahubhashi, and let's get into it. Okay, so Shreyansh, you are someone who has a personal practice and a professional practice
Yes.
where you're working with clients and deadlines. How do you keep perfectionism in check in both of your practices? How do you make sure you complete the projects and not get kind of wrapped up in that inner critic's voice?
So there are two ways to do it, and I think I've also faced this challenge personally. There would be times where I wouldn't. So one way is how do you organize your life, or how do you plan your life? So earlier I wouldn't plan anything like in my life, like say any kind of sports activity or going out with friends. I'd just make it a one long week, and everything would feel really muddled. But planning other things, like I started exercising sometime last year, and I really got into yoga as well. So having dedicated time for something gives me limited time for work. So that really helps plan my week because I know I need to head out for something. So I know this much time I have. And once you create boundaries or certain guardrails, it really helps start making you think fast or act fast. And it helps me save a lot of time. And there's another aspect how I do is, so if given a task like a design task could be broken down, like I break it down into three parts. One part is planning, which sometimes I sleep over, I think in the morning, I think at night. And the second part is prepping. Prepping is which I all compare to say cutting vegetables or doing a kitchen prep, which doesn't require a lot of critique. So prepping needs to be really fast, and that's where I keep my critic away and say, okay, I'm not going to think what it's going to mix like or what's going to look like, but I just prep. And the last part is bringing it together, where I keep a certain room to do back and forth, because that's where perfectionism comes in a little bit, and it's good to have a little bit of mind for refinement. So having these three different phases of saying, thinking, doing prep work, and kind of bringing it together, and kind of breaking down or aligning different times to them really help, versus kind of approaching these different tasks with a similar mindset sometimes may feel overwhelming or muddled. So that's something helps me get things done.
Yeah, that sounds really helpful. I think do you do the same thing for your personal practice as well? Because I know with a personal practice where you're creating for self expression, you don't have external timelines, but do you still assign a timeline, and do you still break it down into three parts, or is that a little bit more free flowing? How does that work?
So personal practice, while I broadly follow a similar practice, but it's a little bit free flowing. And from a personal practice, like building reference libraries is way more important. So in general, before, so for me, I spend a lot more time building reference libraries and keeping them handy. So whenever I get stuck during the process, I kind of have the reference libraries to fall back to. But I kind of keep a similar process where, if say I'm stuck with an idea or get an idea to work on something, I'll try and quickly sketch this down or just note it down or make a note of it, so I can get back to it later. And then there would be a process where I just do run a lot of quick sketches, and they are really quick sketches, like I'll give myself a minute or two and giving certain deadlines, whatever I can achieve. And so giving these slightly tight deadlines in times kind of just help, and kind of just help me brainstorm really fast. And once I have that library of sketches, I can look at what may work better, and I could then put that into refinement. So kind of helping this tiered or kind of a layered process really helps kind of get stuck in the block of perfectionism.
Yeah. And another place where I know people really get stuck is at the completion stage.
Yeah.
You've talked about the creation stage,
Yeah.
reference libraries, and giving yourself short chunks of time. Have you ever found yourself not being able to put some project out there because, it just needs a little bit more something, little bit more refinement? Do you ever catch yourself doing that?
Yes, definitely. And similarly, say in the completion stage, uh, so there are a couple of aspects. Say sometimes I work with layering, or I work with textures, or say I work with colors and how colors get layered. And I sometimes, like my personal, I take the longest trying to figure out colors. So I start with what I know and what I can do first, versus starting with a difficult aspect. So normally in my process, like I would do the creation, like I would create the assets first, I would work with typography first, I would work with composition first, and tackle color in the end.
Yeah. I know how deep you go into your color thinking. Like that's quite incredible. So you keep the most challenging part for the
Yeah.
end.
So that just helps me get started. I think it's important to be in the flow,
Yeah.
and not think about perfecting things right in the start, because that can just be detrimental on your general motivation.
Apps. Question. Let's talk about your studio. What is one habit that keeps your business running smoothly?
One is functional. I feel the functional habit is that we just do a quick check in every day in the morning, just a casual chat around the table. What do we need to work on? So that just kind of keeps everybody aligned on what we are doing. And maybe another habit is just to catch up your team over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea outside studio, or maybe just go around a quick walk around the neighborhood. So that just helps motivation in check as well.
I love the evening walk though. I've seen the surroundings of the studio and it's such a lovely place to step out for an evening walk and
Yeah.
chai. Okay, so next question. What kind of clients energize you?
I think clients just trust the designer, and they're not directive. Once the client becomes a designer itself, like we lose motivation. So we're happy to work with all sorts of clients till the time trusts us and gives us the onus of being the designer ourselves and doesn't become the designer themselves.
Yeah, because clients are the expert in business,
Yeah.
knowing their product and customer, and designers are the expert in
Yeah.
creating and crafting what the project is.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Any project that you did recently which really like brought you home to your purpose, which reminded you of like this is why I do what I do?
So currently we are working on a project for a music room, and what the founder is trying to do is the founder is trying to bring Indian, like create an environment with Indian sounds and global sounds, and trying to create an equal platform for a Western and an Indian viewpoint on design. And I think that's something that really motivates me during my design education, and that's something I always challenged or questioned was design as a foundational thing was created in the West, and how everybody kind of looks at design, it's a Western perspective to look on it, versus trying to create an Indian voice around it is something that really motivates when I always try to look at it. While we don't need to counter what the Western design system is, we can happily borrow from it, but kind of add an Indian perspective to it. So a lot of like times in design, communication kind of looks at Western perspectives. So like a client that's looking to build an original voice or an authentic voice is something that really motivates me.
I'm now curious to know what is one thing that you've done recently, maybe in the past 6 months, 1 year, that has made the client experience much stronger for you.
I think communication is to one thing that we have done is to regularly communicate, because as designers sometimes we tend to go into these thinking loops where we are just thinking and creating and we wouldn't want to be disturbed by anyone. But communicating with clients is very important and keeps the trust intact. So the clients also know what's happening, and it's not something that we've gotten lost with or we've disappeared. So one thing we have done is we have made clear communication channels over email and over WhatsApp in some cases, and on a weekly basis we clearly communicate with the client the progress. So both the client and the team is clearly informed which stage of the project we are at, what are we doing, and it just helps build trust as well.
So that was Shreyansh from Studio Bahubhashi. You can check out more of their work on their website and Instagram. And stay tuned to Designing the Studio with Nishita Mohta. Okay,
Yep.
that's it.
Yes. I'm excited to see what comes.